for some 4.5 billion years, and over that time life has evolved to survive in it. From its atmosphere to its temperature, its gravitational forces, water levels, radiation levels. Finding another planet with the right amount of so many different things sounds impossible. However, it's estimated that 1/3 of planets in the Milky Way could support life. And not just human life. From perfect planets more than twice Earth's size to ones that already host alien life, let's take a look at some planets that could be even better to live on than Earth. Okay, let's define how an exoplanet, that's a planet that orbits a star outside our solar system, could possibly be more suitable for life than Earth. First off, we have the exoplanet's age, which is reliant on its host star. Our Sun has a relatively short lifespan of 10 billion years, and as such, Earth only has about 4 billion habitable years left, before the Sun in the last stages of star death expands and engulfs most of the planets close to it. So to be classed as super habitable, a star with a lifespan of 20 to 70 billion years is needed, giving the planet a longer time to develop and sustain life. Second, the type of host star is super important. Our Sun, for example, is a G-type star which has a surface temperature of around 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Ideally, cooler G-stars or K-type stars are superior. K-types have lower surface temperatures of 6,200 degrees Fahrenheit to 8,900 degrees Fahrenheit. These emit ultraviolet light and radiation at levels which would be less damaging to our DNA, and so shouldn't obstruct the development of life as much as more extreme examples. Third, the exoplanet's location within the habitable zone, that is the distance from a star that allows liquid water to exist on its surface, as its proximity from a star affects the exoplanet's temperature. Too close to the star and the planet is too hot like Mercury, and too far away means it's too cold like Neptune. The exoplanet itself should also have a warmer surface temperature, which is our fourth point, about 8 degrees Fahrenheit more than Earth's average temperature of 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Wait, warmer planet temperatures with colder stars? That doesn't sound right. Well, here's how. Colder temperature stars typically emit more light of longer wavelengths than hotter stars. Longer wavelength light is more easily absorbed by planetary ice than the shorter wavelength light emitted by hotter stars, which instead typically gets reflected back into space. So, the ice on planets with cooler stars absorbs more light, causing it to melt and making the planet warmer overall. And finally, in fifth, we need to consider size. Bigger is better because exoplanets that are larger than Earth give the planet a greater chance of having solid land, which is essential for us. We can't survive floating about in a gas giant world like Jupiter. Okay, so that's 5 key things we need. Let's see which exoplanets might just fit the bill. 442b or not to be. So our first prospective candidate is promisingly labeled as a super-Earth. This is Kepler 442b, out in the Lyra constellation, which orbits a K-type host star called Kepler 442. So, tick for stellar type. It's twice the size of Earth with a solid and rocky surface, and being located in the system's habitable zone, is covered in liquid water. Tick, tick, and tick. Because its star is also 40% smaller than our Sun, the rate at which it's burning through its fuel source is much slower. At the rate it's currently burning, the planet will be in the star's habitable zone for up to 30 billion years. Tick. After its discovery in 2015, researchers have also discovered that it has a solar year equivalent to just 112 Earth days, and assuming its rocky composition is similar to that of Earth's, the gravity of this planet would be roughly 30% stronger, meaning we'd all feel about a third heavier than we currently do. Even so, with its incredibly long habitable lifespan, researchers agree it's probably more habitable than Earth. Alright, what are we waiting for? Let's go! Well, it's located 1,200 light years away. That's some 7 quadrillion miles from Earth. Even if we were to travel on the fastest spacecraft out there, which is currently the Parker Solar Probe, which can reach some 430,000 miles per hour, it would still take more than 1.8 million years to get there. Dang, guess I'll unpack my bags then. Cosmic Cousin. Did you know that the Earth has a family? Yep, turns out our home planet has a distant, older cousin that never comes to family functions anymore. Why? Because they're just too far away to visit. 10.5 quadrillion miles away to be exact. So at 430,000 miles per hour, that's still more than 2.8 million years. I'm talking about Earth's way cooler, or technically way hotter, cuz Kepler 452b, nicknamed Earth 2.0. It's at a very similar distance to its host star as Earth is to our Sun, 97 million miles to Earth's 93 million. However, the G-type star it orbits is 11% larger, and with more ice on 452b, the planet's surface temperature is somewhere between 80 degrees Fahrenheit and 143 degrees Fahrenheit. Hotter than Earth, but still within the range for liquid water to exist on its surface. 452b is also 60% larger than our planet, which is great news. Why? Because planets that are larger than Earth can retain their interior heating and atmosphere for a longer time period, holding on to any oceans it might have for longer too. The only problem is that it might not be super habitable for much longer. Its host star, Kepler 452, is some 6 billion years old and of similar size to the Sun. However, being further along in its stellar life means the habitable zone of this system is being pushed further and further out, with 452b just skirting the inside of this all-important zone. The planet likely only has another 500 to 900 million years of habitability left before it becomes too hot to sustain life. Such a shame. No wonder 452b doesn't show up to family events. Terrestrial twin. Speaking of families, it turns out Earth also has a long-lost twin. Yep, there's an exoplanet out there that's practically identical to Earth, and its name is KOI 4878.01. KOI stands for Kepler Object of Interest. This means that it's yet to be confirmed as a planet, since planetary signals can sometimes be confused with other activity like solar flares. But if it is, it'll give Earth a run for its money. Located 6 quadrillion miles away in the constellation of Draco. No, not that Draco. This KOI is 98% similar to Earth, especially when it comes to size and temperature. To work out the radius of other exoplanets, Earth's radius is the benchmark. It measures 3,963 miles, which is 1 Earth radius. The KOI is 5% larger, with 1.05 Earth radius equal to over 4,161 miles. This is an ideal size for a super habitable planet, bigger than Earth, but not so big that it's likely made up of gas like Neptune. Although this KOI actually has a hotter host star, a G-type with temperatures that range from 10,000 to 13,000 degrees Fahrenheit, its median surface temperature is just 60 degrees Fahrenheit. That sounds chilly, but as I mentioned earlier, Earth's average temperature is 59 degrees Fahrenheit, just 1 degree out. It's getting hard to tell these twins apart. Move over, Mars. Imagine waking up one day and looking out your window to see red plants. Red leaves, red trees, red grass, red everywhere. This is what life would look like on the surface of Kepler 186f. Why aren't the plants green here? Well, this is due to 186f's host star being cooler and redder than our hot yellow sun, meaning plant life on the exoplanet would likely have adapted to utilize the red wave light. Though it may be different in color, a study in 2018 suggested that 186f might have seasons and a climate similar to Earth. Plus, it orbits within the Goldilocks zone of its planetary system, so-called because conditions for life are not too hot or not too cold, essentially making it the sweet spot of any habitable zone. Well, aside from all the red, it sounds like a perfectly habitable planet, but there could be signs that things are already living there. Yep, 186f is a planet of deep interest, with scientists continuing to explore this world for extraterrestrial life. One report shows inconclusive but optimistic signs in the radio noise received from the planet. These radio emissions were captured by the Allen Telescope Array, where scientists analyzed the signals given off by the planet. While radio waves emitted by planetary systems usually come from the interactions between the matter and electromagnetic fields of planets and stars, certain patterns in the radio data from 186f were interpreted by some researchers as potentially indicating an intentional broadcast signal. In other words, signs of extraterrestrial technology. Sadly, the data is extremely open-ended, and the conclusion is not widely accepted, as any patterns were not repeatable and likely coincidental. If anything is living there though, let's just hope they aren't face huggers. Though we'll likely never know, as even traveling at 430,000 miles per hour, it would also take over 900,000 years to reach it in the constellation of Cygnus, which is 580 light years away. Looks like we can put that next Alien sequel on hiatus. Nature's calling. Now, there are tens of thousands of Kepler objects of interest out there, but KOI 5554.01 might just be the most interesting of all of them. This is because it's a possible super-habitable planet with perfect conditions for life. It's in a prime age of roughly 6.5 billion years. It also has a similar orbital period to Earth, 362 days, as well as an Earth radius of 0.96, so ever so slightly smaller. While bigger is better for super habitability, this is an indication it has a solid surface. Having a rocky surface improves chances of hosting life, since many chemicals, nutrients, and minerals needed for animal and plant life, like phosphorus, are most usable in a solid state. Alongside great temperatures of 79 degrees Fahrenheit, it's also equidistant to its host star as the Sun is to Earth, with both 93 million miles away. The planet is very close in mass to Earth too. Our native planet has a mass of 6.5 sextillion tons, aka 1 Earth mass. This planet's is 1.02 Earth masses, or 6.7 sextillion tons. However, distance continues to be a drawback at 700 light years away, some 4.1 quadrillion miles. But let's put some things into perspective. Our early hominid ancestor Homo erectus existed for over 1.5 million years. Modern Homo sapiens, however, only appeared about 300,000 years ago. Considering how little time we took to develop, we still have thousands if not millions of years left for our species to expand and explore the universe. Enough time to maybe even switch home planets one day. Trapped in space. Have you guys ever heard of an ultra-cool dwarf? No, I'm not talking about Peter Dinklage. TRAPPIST-1 is an ultra-cool dwarf star that hosts a system of 7 planets, pretty similar to our solar system's 8 planets. This system is over 40 light years away in the constellation of Aquarius, some 244 trillion miles out, and one of the exoplanets there, TRAPPIST-1e, is a great candidate for habitability. Its mass, radius, density, and gravity are all similar to Earth's. 1e is a rocky planet, but also a potential water world that's located in the system's Goldilocks zone. Although it's slightly smaller than Earth at 0.9 Earth radius, its atmosphere is not dense or thick enough to harm its habitability. Its host star, that previously mentioned ultra-cool dwarf, is much cooler, smaller, dimmer, and older than our Sun, at 7.6 billion years compared to 4.6 billion. As a result of its smaller size and cooler temperatures, it's believed it can remain stable for up to 12 trillion years, over 2,000 times longer than our Sun. In fact, it's likely that this star will be one of the last remaining in the universe. With such a star to sustain itself, 1e will theoretically be able to develop complex life, and could even contain more water on its planet than Earth by up to 5% of its entire mass. This is huge compared to the amount of water on our own planet, only making up 0.02% of Earth's mass. Whoa, move over Peter Dinklage. First prize planet. If there was a prize for a most super habitable planet, then KOI 5715.01 would definitely take the crown. Yep, this planet is the original Miss Universe. Of course, it's a long way from home, at 3,000 light years, some 18 quadrillion miles from Earth. But for all that distance, this planet is the creme de la creme of habitable environments. First of all, it's well within the age range at 5.5 billion years old. It also has a mean surface temperature of 53 degrees Fahrenheit, which is only slightly cooler than Earth's 59 degrees Fahrenheit. So not an ideal temperature. However, its host star is a K-type orange dwarf, which are usually quiet, low-activity stars that are much more stable than G-type stars like our Sun. This means that it doesn't send out any dangerous X-rays or ultraviolet radiation, leading to more chance of life and more advanced life forms. Also, Miss Universe here is almost double the size of Earth, 1.9 times larger in fact. This could lead to a planet that's even greener than Earth. Why? Because the wavelength of light from K-type stars is different to others, plants and vegetation would cover a lot more of the surface of the planet. So much so that they would be super visible from space. Wow, she's so pretty. Let's give this exoplanet the crown already. Come to the dark side. Next up on our cosmic trip is Kepler's 62F. It may look a little blue, but that's because it's the breathtaking watery world of our dreams. Although it's nearly 1,000 light years away in the Lyra constellation, some 5.8 quadrillion miles, it has all the hallmarks of a nice new home planet. It's bigger than Earth in both size and mass, estimated to be 2.6 Earth masses and a 1.4 Earth radius. It also orbits around a K-type star, remember the ones able to exist up to 30 billion years, and is already 7 billion years old. The exoplanet even has the potential to host its own moon like Earth and is assumed to be covered in deep, vast oceans, much like Earth's. Researchers have backed up 62F's habitability by conducting simulation experiments testing the planet's CO2 levels and atmosphere thickness, and combined with the knowledge of its orbital path, they concluded it's likely the exoplanet has a climate and even seasons similar to those of Earth. Its axial tilt is even similar to Earth's 23 degrees, calculated at a range between 14 and 30. However, it's tidally locked, so that one side permanently faces its star, leaving one side an eternal day and one side an eternal night. Even so, the axial tilt would be able to transfer heat from the sun side to the cooler, darker side, meaning parts of the planet would still be habitable. Well, as a night owl, this sounds perfect to me. Come to the darker side. 62F isn't the only super habitable exoplanet with a permanent dark side, though. Gliese 667cc is the next promising planet that outshines Earth. Well, at least 50% of it does. It's described as one of the best candidates for liquid water, possessing suitable temperatures along a region called the Terminator line. That's the line that divides the dark and light side of a planet at any given point. So essentially the thin sliver of the planet that's in an eternal dusk state. Despite a tidally locked darker side, its star-facing side receives around 90% of the light that Earth does. But life on the planet might be a bit of an adjustment. Our 365-day year would be reduced to just 28 days on Gliese. This means that if you're 20 years old on Earth, you'd be 260 on this planet. So what about getting there? Well, it's located in the constellation of Scorpius, only 22 light years away. Sounds pretty close, right? Unfortunately, it would still take over 40,000 years to reach, even with the Parker Solar Probe's 430,000 miles per hour speeds. But never fear, new technologies appear all the time, ones that could make our current advances look like Stone Age tools. So by the year 42,000, we might be making a dreamlike trip to this planet a reality. Early evolution. Humans have been searching for evidence of extraterrestrial life for years, but what's more fascinating is the discovery of life as it begins, which exoplanet K2-18b might be experiencing right this second. At some 125 light years away, or 730 trillion miles, it's still very far out from Earth. And at first glance, it doesn't look great. The orbital path of K2-18b actually takes it out of its host star's habitable zone, and its host star is much smaller and cooler than our own. However, studies suggest that it may be cold enough to possess liquid oceans conducive to life. In 2019, water vapor was discovered on K2-18b, making up 0.7 to 1.6% of the atmosphere. Scientists achieved this using a special kind of imaging technique called spectrometry. This separates the light reflected off the planet into bands on a spectrum. Each chemical element has its own unique fingerprint, so if it is present in the atmosphere, scientists will be able to recognize it on this spectrum alongside other traits about its composition. With this data, researchers also inferred that the planet may have clouds. However, if it does, these will likely be formed of ice, as the surface temperature of K2-18b rarely reaches above 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so far this exoplanet is sounding like a real doozy. But in 2023, NASA announced that the James Webb Telescope detected traces of methane, CO2, and possibly dimethyl sulfide, commonly known as DMS, in the atmosphere. Now, most DMS in the Earth's atmosphere is emitted from phytoplankton in ocean environments, which are bacterial organisms responsible for removing CO2 from the air and a primary source of food for sea creatures. This means that there could already be signs of small life inhabiting the planet. Even scientists admit that a planet could be extremely non-Earth-like, but also promise better conditions for the evolution of new, never-before-seen life. So in a few million years, we might have extraterrestrial neighbors. Tea Garden Party. With a name like Tea Garden Star B, you might expect me to show you the host star of a far-off system. But actually, Tea Garden Star B, also known less confusingly as Tea Garden B, is another exoplanet, one whose discovery is a big deal. Because of its 1.05 mass, Tea Garden Star B is likely to be rocky, and astronomers judge that it has a 60% chance of having liquid water, even though its orbit is outside of the system's habitable zone. Estimates put the Tea Garden system at around 8 billion years old, plenty of time to potentially develop life, and a prime age for a super habitable planet. The planet is 12.5 light years away, which sounds more reachable than others, even if it is 70 trillion miles out and traveling at 430,000 miles per hour. That means it'd take a mere 18,727 years to get there. While it's still not close, it does have a high Earth Similarity Index rating of 0.95. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, sadly it is. Even with a 60% chance of the exoplanet having water, there's only a 3% chance of it having an atmosphere. Without an atmosphere, which is the mixes of gases around the Earth, there'd just be a vacuum, and as far as scientists know, life cannot grow or exist where there's literally nothing. So if there's no atmosphere ever to be found on Tea Garden Star B, we'll have to postpone the move there indefinitely, I'm afraid. Blue Lagoon beyond the moon. What would humans look like if we had only evolved in water instead of on land? Perhaps we'd have gills and fins of our own and webs on our feet and hands. Well, if we'd developed on Kepler-22b, we might have evolved just like that. Located in the constellation of Cygnus, 635 light-years from Earth, roughly 3.7 quadrillion miles, this super-habitable water world is most likely covered in super-oceans. It orbits its G-type host star every 290 days, with the luminosity of its star just 25% less than that of our Sun. However, the distance to its star is 15% less than Earth's distance to the Sun, so despite being smaller and colder, this shorter distance and lower luminosity allows surface temperatures of 72 degrees Fahrenheit on 22b. Oh, balmy. Thankfully, studies indicate that these temperatures won't be subject to extreme greenhouse heating like Earth, where heat is trapped near the Earth's surface by a buildup of gases. That means the planet will stay at a habitable temperature for much longer. With a size over 2 times that of our home planet, there's more than enough space to go around, with studies also suggesting that there's a great potential for life to inhabit its seas. Who knows, living in a watery paradise may be the best thing for humankind. Assuming there's enough water wings to go around. Planet Ross. Can you imagine living on a planet called Ross? Would we all be called Rossians? Rosslings? Rosskind? Well, one of the great things about Ross is that it's actually a real planet called Ross 128b to be precise. 11 light years from Earth, this exoplanet is close to the same size as Earth and has a surface temperature of 73 degrees Fahrenheit, suitable enough for water if it has an atmosphere. Scientists are actually looking to find evidence of life in this potential atmosphere, which would contain chemicals such as oxygen, ozone, and methane, a great cocktail of evolutionary ingredients. And it seems like Ross wants to become our interstellar neighbor, as it's moving closer and closer towards us. The host star of the system, Ross 128, is gradually moving towards our solar system, meaning in the next 79,000 years, Ross 128b will be the closest exoplanet to Earth. Ross's gravity is also something to consider regarding habitability, as it's only slightly higher than Earth's. Humans could survive up to 4 times the Earth's gravitational strength, which is 1 g. Ross, however, has a force of 1.1 g's, so we'd barely feel a difference. This means it's entirely possible for humans, animals, and even plants to adapt, although we would notice it. This increased force would feel like carrying extra weight, so if you're 150 pounds on Earth, there you'd feel like you're carrying around an extra 16 pounds more. So I think we can all agree if we ever visit Ross, we're leaving the scales on Earth. The planet next door. If the Earth was a house, then Proxima Centauri b would be its next door neighbor. Not only does it have extremely promising resources for life, it's also the closest exoplanet to us, a mere 4 light years away in the Centaurus constellation. Could this be our best chance of living on another planet? Well, to start with, it's well within its host star's habitation zone, and the radiation emitted by its host star is sufficient for a certain type of photosynthesis that could support plant and bacterial life. There is also reason to believe that Centauri once possessed water a long time ago, though not anymore. But there's ways to get its oceans back again. Mechanisms like asteroids and comets can deliver water to developing planets. These objects carry water within them, and it's thought that this water vaporizes, melts, and disperses once it's impacted a planet's rocky surface. If it has an atmosphere, it's likely to contain oxygen and CO2, and if Centauri once lost its atmosphere, volcanic activity on the planet could potentially rebuild it as eruptions release the gases trapped in the exoplanet's rocky structure. This second atmosphere would likely provide an even more stable one than Earth's. So is reaching this planet possible? Well, even 4 light years away is an incredibly long distance. We would still have to travel 24 trillion miles, over 7,500 years, to claim it for our own. That's 268 generations of your future family holed up in a rocket ship. However, Centauri is one of those lucky red dwarf orbiting planets that will be hanging around for trillions of years, enough time to develop life on its own. Plus, there are projects on Earth aiming to create power systems and transportations that can reach Centauri within the 21st century. So who knows? Maybe your great-great-great-great-grandkids will live on a whole new world in the not-so-distant future. Man, well, that sounds great.